What's up, guys? Today on the YouTube channel, we have Justin Lalonde, where we'll be discussing his journey growing his agency, paidadvertising.com. Justin, welcome to the channel.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first question I like to ask everybody I have on the channel, it's pretty broad. It's who are you and what do you do?
Good question. So, as you said, I run paidadvertising.com. I've been running the business for about 4 years now. Started off as a media agency, so we were doing like anything design related, like graphic design, web design, branding packages, right? Because that's what I majored in college. So I did that for 4 months, but then I got good results for clients. I had clients every month, but I had to always chase new clients, which is kind of what was the pain of that model. I wanted a retainer model, so I pivoted 4 months into the agency on the e-commerce side. So I mean, since then we've worked with about 70 or so e-commerce brands. We are primarily meta focused when it comes to paid ads. We still do a lot of Google and TikTok ads. So we spent about like $9.6 million last year. 5.5 of that is on Meta, to give you an idea. So it's still very much Meta indexed as an agency. And now more recently, we've got our own like advertising program that we have for would it be advertising agencies, smaller brands, even local businesses, because we've launched a department at the agency where we handle local businesses now for the last 3 months or so.
Now, you mentioned you started 4 years ago, so a lot of your
Yep.
ramp up was during peak COVID. Now,
Yep.
with the e-commerce market, do you consider that to be a positive starting during COVID, or what was that like?
Yeah, 100%. I think this was I'm gonna lie if I say that I made this decision consciously, choosing the ecom, industry because it was booming during COVID. It was more me looking up the mentors who were in the e-commerce space, and I just thought the money's there, so let me go there. So that's all that was into that decision. But it was, I think, a net positive. We also talked prior to recording about like me starting in the French Canadian market, which at the time we had it much harder than a lot of other Canadian provinces and just the states as a whole. We were super strict here with governmental regulations when it came to COVID. Everything was shut down for way longer than everybody else. So a lot of local businesses here had to start selling online. And that was the case of a handful of my first clients, which literally were super new to the e-commerce space. They were doing great locally, and they started seeing traction like immediately online because all their clientele had to buy online. So all of these guys were first-time advertisers. It was like a blue ocean for them, and there weren't really any agency owners reaching out to them. So it allowed me to like swoop this corner of the internet up front, get very good case studies, and all of these guys you can still find them on old client interviews I have on YouTube, and allow me to then like move that experience into the American market.
One thing I want to emphasize there is running campaigns, whether it be LinkedIn or cold email, or cold calls in languages that are non-English are just always going to be so much easier because we have
Hmm.
all of Central America, South America, all of Europe, all of Asia targeting the US and Canada, specifically the US.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
choosing to go into the French market first, whether that was a conscious strategy or just a chance, I think that's awesome because you get those case studies to then go after the US-based companies where, getting
Yeah.
those first clients in French, I imagine it's the acquisition there, considering there's less of a background, it's going to be so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've never been able to beat the cold outbound stats I had in the French market. So again, this is 4 years ago. So I'm guessing this would have changed now. But I was doing cold looms and I was getting a 38% meeting book rate from my looms, which I've never gotten anywhere else. Like it was insane. Almost, I mean, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 2 looms I would send would just get a call booked. And everybody would be like, I never, was pitched this way. This was so interesting again for that market. So, yeah, I definitely believe there's an edge in starting local, dominating that market because you have resonance. Like I spoke the local language, I knew the slang. I was one of them, but I was bringing something fresh that my local market didn't have, which is a lot of the American perspective. So yeah,
One thing I want to emphasize here is the fact that you are doing personalized looms when you start out. Because a lot of beginners
yeah,
look for shortcuts. They look for the AI
yeah,
solution or they look for the fancy thing. Where like when you're first starting out, personal connection and effort get rewarded the most. It's did you put in
yeah,
the effort and prospect will see that, and also personal connection. You mentioned personal connection via your location and language, but it can also be targeting a business type that you have a personal interest in or connection to. So I really like that you started with Looms. And do you know how many clients did you sign with Looms like in the French market before moving to the US?
probably like 10 to 12, I would say. I did cold, so for the first 2 months, I did a mix of cold emails and cold calls where I had set myself like I'm somebody who's very routinely, so I like doing things with the schedule. So I was like every day, same time, I would do like this amount of looms or this amount of cold calls, which usually I think I would try and do like about 25 to like 50 touch points, new touch points every day. And I was doing half of those were emails, half of those were cold calls. I did basically it was cold emails at first. If somebody would reply, then I would send them a cold loom. And then I think 2 months in or three months in or so, right before I made the switch to ecom, this is when I said, let me just do cold looms. Like from the start, let me send a loom. And yeah, I mean that got me again my first roughly dozen clients
I mean, a dozen clients is a huge base. I mean, if that's,
for
everybody
sure.
has a 10K a month number in their head. Well, that's it,
Oh,
and
exactly.
you
What
just,
past it? I mean, twice past it, to be honest. So yeah.
that's awesome. So if you're listening and you're looking for AI shortcuts, it's not to say you shouldn't explore new things, but
Yep,
companies do appreciate effort. It doesn't go unnoticed at scale when you're
for
doing this
sure.
every day over time.
Yeah. I think I just got, yeah, I was consistent with it like every Monday to Friday. So that was the thing too. It's not like I was working crazy on weekends and whatever. Like Monday to Friday, my first hour of the day, and for my first 8 months of the agency, I was making almost 15K a month before even graduating college. I was still a full-time student. And I right before classes in the morning, my first hour of the day as I woke up was to just bang out cold rooms. I would do 10 like every single day, which I continued yeah for about like 6, 7 months.
Now, how are you currently getting clients? I know that
Yeah.
you have a YouTube channel, you have a following different platforms. Like, what does that look like?
Um, for the better part of the last 2 years, content has been the primary way of acquiring clients. Like definitely. So if I go um second half of 2022 and all of 2023, YouTube was by far the top channel for acquisition for me. This year though, I've had a very interesting shift where referrals are the first source now, and not just client referrals but like network referrals where I'll have people who follow me as an example on Instagram and I'll get thrown into a random group chat which are like, hey Justin, I've been following you for a while. My good friend or my cousin or my uncle has this brand and like I've just been looking at your stuff. I'm not in the e-com space, but I know they need help and I just thought you were the guy. So I've had that happen a lot this year. And yeah, referrals has been our main acquisition source.
That's sweet. And now, one thing I got to point out because it's cool. You have paidadvertising.com. I
Yeah.
was no, but it used to be called, was it Wizzo Media?
Wizzo Media, yeah.
Okay. What's the story behind, did someone bring you this domain name? Did you seek it out? What did that look like?
Yep. I had been since November 2022. I started looking into like rebranding. And I was looking initially at the domain paidads.com. And I got in touch with the owner and they wouldn't budge below 6 figures. So I was like, forget it. Like I'm not about to spend that much on a domain. And then paidadvertising.com was actually used by an American agency, and it was taken up until someday. The person I was negotiating with at GoDaddy flagged to me. He's like, "Hey, there's this new domain which just came on the market. It's paidadvertising.com." And I had looked into it. It was in use, but it got put up for sale. And I think that business, I don't know what happened honestly to this business, but they were trying to look for a quick sale. I yeah, bought that for 9,000 US essentially was the price of that domain, which honestly I feel is undervalued. I'm pretty sure I could be able to flip it for more, but yeah.
I was guessing more in the mid to high five figures. So that's a lot less than expected.
Yeah, no, same here, honestly. I think I see this as an investment. Like I'm pretty sure I could flip it for a lot more.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you're doing any SEO, but I imagine that could work into an SEO play too.
I think it could. I'm not doing enough of it. What I simply did is when I rebranded for the first time, I launched like a Google cold like prospecting campaign, like a search campaign essentially. And I do get a lot of traffic now from just Google search because of that campaign. But yeah,
That's sweet. Now, one question in terms of your actual offers inside paid advertising. Now, I
yeah,
know it's for your agency, for your done for you service. You
yeah,
offer a performance-based pricing structure. I'm always
yeah,
interested to hear like how the actual offer works. Could you break
yeah.
down to the listening like what is the actual offer you provide to companies?
Yeah. So what it is now isn't the same as it used to be. We had to transition through the years. So I'd be happy to revisit back then if ever this is something we have time for. But currently, I do flat fee plus percentage of net profit from ads. So I'll give you an example of how that's calculated. I do 10% usually net profit. So that's 10% of ad attributed revenue. As an example, if we handle Facebook ads, we spend 20K in a month, we get them 100K in sales. So we go ad attributed revenue, 100K in this case, minus their cost of goods. So let's say they're 50%. Now they have 50K left, minus the ad spend. They have 30K left now because we have 20K in ad spend in this hypothetical example, minus their agency flat fee. We take whatever's left at the end of the day. So it's not, again, now we can get into the debate. Is it really net? Is it not? Look, it's not net, but as close as it gets because we remove cost of goods from it.
I like that. And I imagine it's also been really helpful in terms of building trust with prospects too, yeah?
Yeah, it has. I think it has a lot. Performance deals are like, I would also say they're not as big now as they used to be because of the math behind it. We used to do percentage of ROAS. So it was simply attributed revenue minus ad spend percentage of that, which was about 10%. So removing the cost of goods now from it, it takes a big hit, but I think it's fair for the brand.
Also, from my understanding, tracking the ROAS deals could be quite difficult.
Yeah, I mean, even nowadays, to be honest, net profit has been still very hard to track. I've always been against percentage of ad spend, but the more I start thinking about it, the more I kind of realize that, especially in this day and age, it might make more sense to go percentage of spend where, like, realistically speaking, I know the argument in this space is percentage of ad spend is wrong because you're incentivized to unprofitably scale. But if you have a strong relationship with the client, you should never just have the green light to scale unprofitably. They're in control of their business. They should be giving you the green light to scale, which technically, if they give you that green light, should mean you're profitable. So I'm contemplating actually switching to percentage of spend lately. So it's in the works.
I can tell you from the companies we manage cold email for, we have a couple agencies that specialize in ecom and they're like 100 plus person physical office, more traditional agencies. Almost all of them are on percentage of spend. Whether that's a good
Yeah.
thing or not, I don't know because I'm not in the ad space, but I can tell you that's how a lot of them do pricing.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense now because yeah, the way I would frame it or sell it to a prospect is the same way we kind of just discussed, which is like, look, I could give you, I know I'd be more incentivized with percentage of profit or ROAS, but how can we really track it nowadays? Incredibly hard. So yeah.
Now, in terms of a tracking that you do for clients, do you use
Yeah.
Hiro's triple well? Like, how do you manage that actual attribution?
Yeah, both. So I do have the majority of our clients on Triple because the majority are e-commerce brand owners. So especially most of them are on Shopify. But I have one of our clients who's on WooCommerce, which is on Hyros, and I have three accounts that are info product businesses actually. So non-Shopify, and therefore they're all on Hyros.
Now, so you mentioned you have some local businesses, you have mainly e-commerce and also some info product. Is all of your acquisition and marketing focused around e-com and those other businesses just came to you, or what does that look like in terms of who you want to work with?
Yeah, so paid advertising.com in itself is focused, it used to be at least focused e-com, but then through time, I had a lot of very similar businesses. Like B2C SaaS companies is one that started to come to us from YouTube, which the model was, I mean, very pretty much the same as e-com. Like you would acquire, the goal was to optimize CPA, and especially the ones with the web app, pretty much the same exact thing as an e-com brand, just less front end profitability, more on the back end. It's the only
Sure.
difference with it. Info came very organically too, I'd say. And the more time passes, the more I enjoy that space. Performance deals are usually better. Plus, I resonate better with the space because I'm kind of one of them. So it feels like there's more of this same level when we speak to each other. But that, yeah, happened organically. And when it came to local businesses now, that's a separate agency, actually. I'm building with a business partner that you and I both know. I mean, John Danes, actually. So, we're building that. We're acquiring clients purely through paid ads as of right now. So that's like its own separate acquisition mechanism.
You mentioned resonating with info. That's because on your business, you also have an info component as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. I got Ad Engine, which is like our program where we help honestly any marketer. And when I say marketer, it's very large. Any paid ads marketer. So you could be an e-com business owner, an info product owner, or just an ad agency owner. We help them out, like get from, I mean, just scale up with their ads from beginners to the ones that are intermediate and really want to scale. We've got like at last time I checked, we were at 70 hours of content in there. So
That's awesome. And one thing I want to emphasize here is again, I'm not an ads guy myself. I'm an outbound guy, but I have a good understanding of ads from being in the space and from working with companies that sell ads, especially a lot of beginners I talk to. There seems to be this avoidance of actually learning advertising and the whole idea
Uh-huh.
of, I just want to hire a Fiverr media buyer. I want to underpay them and then I want a 5x return on ad spend. So I really like that your product is around, it's not around just how to grow an agency. It's around how to build an actual skill set. So what is your take on like
Yeah.
actually learning the skill set?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked that because like I'm so against that idea that you should just like offload all the media buying, especially from the start. So today I'll go in two directions here. First and foremost, I had this realization that media buying for me to learn was incredibly important. Funnily enough, when Felipe left working with me a couple of years ago to go actually and start working with you at Done Free meetings and such, where he kind of had a lot of the knowledge. I had very little, and then that put me in a weird spot for a couple of months afterwards. So I went through that same phase of like I should just offload media buying. I always was interested in it and always kind of kept a close eye on it. So I wasn't a complete noob, but I wasn't an expert essentially when my first media bar had left me. So that said, um, I think it's kind of hypocrite for you to claim that you and your team are experts at doing one thing when you're the CEO and you don't even know the thing that you sell. And I give this example of like, Zuckerberg was a computer science wizard before building an like a software company, or let's just call it a social media company that relies on code, right? It's like all these guys were experts at the thing before building the thing itself, because that's what makes them expert. And I think that now, seriously, if all you do is get clients and like have them with the middle, like with a media bar, you're a middleman. So all that to say, I believe that you should be learning the service yourself. You are going to be much better at one, spotting the right team members and knowing if they're bullshitting you, knowing if what they're doing is actually working. Second of all, it levels you up as an expert when speaking to your clients because you really know what you're talking about. And you can bridge the gap between sales and service delivery. Like you'll know how to handle both departments of your business because you know the thing that you sell so well. So definitely learn ads, honestly. And last point there is if I like it gives me security now that today, if knock on the wood and God forbid, like I lose everything, right? Or lose clients or whatever. I could be a meter buyer myself, worst case, or I could probably handle like 5 to 10 clients by myself because I know I'm a damn good creative strategist. I know I'm really good at media buying. I know I'm good at communication. I know I'm good at acquisition. I can do all the things in my agency. It doesn't mean I'm the best, but I can do all of them good enough for me to sustain a business or business alone. So I think it gives me tremendous security at night.
I want to kind of continue on that last thought there of you could always just be a freelancer or work for someone. It that for a lot of people that I talk to, they tell me that their goal is to like run a business and travel, or their goal is to like
Yep.
let's say make 10K a month and have free time. I think for most people almost an agency isn't even the best vehicle. It's getting really good at the skill. And then for example, like you could if you're a great media buyer, you can get a nice salary of like high five figures, low six figures. If you're great, you can get multiple six figures or even freelance, right? Like
I agree.
building an agency requires acquisition, website, team members, like an actual agency is a lot of work. Whereas a
Yep.
freelancer, you could have 5 clients. They could pay you each $2,000, $3,000 a month, and you could make a really good income, have great margins, and still probably work under 40 hours a week. But you can't do that without the skill.
No, I think if I wanted to go that route that you said, like let's say you want to go the Bali route, you want to live in a place where costs are quite low, you just want to travel, have fun, and have quite a low maintenance business. Just be you and a VA and have this VA kind of be your assistant, and like she or he would handle all the admin tasks and just kind of take some of that pressure off of you and make sure that stuff is organized, flag issues to you. But yeah, you're freelancer with a VA, and I think that's the probably the best path to make like 10, 15K a month.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think people avoid it because it's not cool. There's obviously a little bit of ego tied into a lot of beginners, right?
Yeah,
They want to have a team, but having a team's a lot of work. These are
that
people
is.
that they have there's kids in school and that money's being paid by you. They have mortgages, they have cars, they have medical expenses. Like that
Yeah.
also comes down to like the ethics of hiring someone like hiring a media buyer. One of the things I hate to see is where people will hire a media buyer. they will make them give all their case studies and commit to work and then pay them on a per client basis when they have no clients. So I also think
Yeah.
it ties into an ethics thing even.
Yeah, no, I agree. I where I think for me, where I think it's wrong ethically is I do see a lot of agency owners, they'll sometimes get case studies from these freelancers, use them to acquire clients, and then not even work with the said freelancer himself after to like handle the deal, which they kind of just steal case studies at this point. I'm like, if at least you would have worked with that guy specifically on the account, it's another story, right? Yeah, so that would be a whole other discussion.
I'm with you on there. Well, coming to the last couple of questions of this interview, one thing I like
Yeah,
to ask is, we talked about acquisition. Obviously, that's what I specialize in. It's also what's most attractive to a lot of people. I always want to talk about acquisition. But one of the less sexy questions, but it's really important, is how do you keep client retention high? Because if you can
yeah.
retain clients, everything gets easier. So I would love to hear from you, having a lot of clients. What have been some of your core takeaways, strategies, principles for
Yeah.
client?
So when we were at, that was last year, we were kind of capping ourselves at like 10 clients. Seriously, just by design, we wanted to kind of stay at about this 10 client mark. Retention was 11 months. We opened this pool up now to like 15 clients, which is where we're at right now, like on retainer, just the paidadvertising.com, not the lead gen side. Um, we're now down to 8 months essentially, which is I think still pretty good all things considered with this industry. Um, I would say I had just like the media bar situation from earlier, I had to hit a wall myself before kind of backtracking and then fixing that. Like 2022 was the big year for me where we tripled in size and in tripled in client pool and therefore in revenue also as an agency. And I just honestly thought this was it. This was the high life, but the business was so not optimized. So much of it was reliant on the two team members we had at the time, the two media bars that we had. And man, we were late on everything, like UGC, creative editing, like everything was just all over the place. And I basically went from, I think it was like 8 clients to 18 on retainer in the span of the summer 2022. And then from September to January, so September 2022 to January 2023, I think I went back down to like 7. That was like a huge curve where really fucked us up, honestly, because it was not the old clients, it was all the new clients we were acquiring with like such, again, at such a high pace, we couldn't sustain it. So I had to take a step back. And what I did back then is I hired a systems integrator that worked with us full time for a year. And literally his entire mandate was like systemizing our business from A to Z. It was like I had zero project management systems, like seriously nothing. It was all in our heads. So I was like, build me something on ClickUp that makes sense. Build me Google Sheets that we know are going to be like templates for all clients. Build me something that makes it so that I can track my entire service delivery. And it's what we did. Took some time, took honestly a couple of months to like finish the systems and like really rebuild the agency. And now we've been able to scale again to like 15, 16 clients. I still see things breaking at about like we were at 17 2 months ago, and like we kind of went back down to 15 now. My ceiling is still close to where it was 2 years ago, but it's much more maintainable now because of systems.
One other note I have on that is I think people, when they start out, again, a lot of my audience is beginner just by the nature of most people are beginners in agencies, is they have this idea of let's get to 30, 40 clients in like the first year, where, 15 clients is a lot of people. That's a
A
lot
lot.
of questions. That's a lot of requests. That's a lot of revisions to manage. That's a
Yeah.
lot of personalities.
Is
So
it 15 or 50?
you said 15 or 50?
15. Yeah, no, that's what I
That's
just
what I
want.
thought. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I also learned this in my agency. We had our highest number of clients in 2022, and I realized like this is actually not what I want. And we scaled
Yeah.
down the number of clients in 23, made
Yeah.
more money in 23, made more revenue in 22, but that's just a vanity
Yeah.
of it. So I'm with you on finding, lesser clients, better results, higher retention, and also working with people that you like to work with. I think that, when you've been in the space for quite a while, that becomes more and more important.
Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think, yeah, there's advantages and disadvantages to having a tight-knit pool of clients. I think again, the disadvantage is one goes and then there goes 8 to 12% of my revenue right there. So it sucks a little bit. And also I'd say the second thing that I'd say is a disadvantage about it is just the fact that if one complains or one is unhappy and you're someone like me, like I really care about all the, clients we have, because most of them, like I'm still on calls or actively kind of chatting with them all. So part of me really cares. And I'm like, damn, it feels like a big portion of our client pool that like is unhappy if like one or two are unhappy. But I got to zoom out sometimes and be, just get myself back down to earth.
No, I agree with you. It can this is also where like I think eventually hiring someone to manage communication is so critical because like the emotional component of like you have in the morning you wake up and there's one angry message and that can like change your mood and emotional state for the rest of the day. Obviously
Yeah,
there's like in a perfect world it's like you just don't let it, but it does. At least for me, it does. So I think also
same.
distancing yourself, communication reporting can be quite important as you grow.
Yeah, I've done part of it, but I think this is part of the reason why I've also built an agency now with a partner with the intent of starting from scratch without having us fully involved in the delivery. Like building a team from the start, essentially having a front from the start, is because one of the, I'd say, downsides of being so brand focused as I am now and running an agency is the expectation that so many clients have coming in where they really want me. And that kind of ties me a lot to the service delivery, which I'm like, I'm fine. So as long as it's a little higher ticket and that we have a tighter pool of clients, I can handle it. But yeah,
Well, Justin, last question is more about you and your long-term vision. So you've been doing this for 4 years now.
yeah.
You've been so successful. You've grown a brand. You have a lot to build off. So what is the long-term goal? Is it that you want to build these companies and sell them? Do you want to make them cash flowing assets? What does that look like?
I always like, at least now with everything I'm trying to build, I'm thinking about building to sell, even though I don't know if I'm ever going to sell. I just like to have that door opened. Cash flow is still the primary objective with everything that I'm building right now. In fact, I'm trying to de-riskify this by being so focused on like the e-commerce space, which is why now I'm pushing a lot more of the program, which is why I'm pushing a lot more of the lead gen agency. I want to kind of hedge my risks, essentially, still use the same expertise and core fundamental skill that I have, which is ads. And that was part of my goal with rebranding the paidadvertising.com was to be like, all right, this is a very authoritative domain. It can allow me to move in many different directions. So as long as I still do ads, and that was the goal with it. Like, let's just become the ultimate ads expert. Would it be from an educational standpoint or actually delivery standpoint, like doing it for you? Um, we're just going to cover it all. So that's where I'm heading right now. I really want to push more about Ad Engine. We've had amazing results so far with students, small e-commerce brands, agency owners, lead gen businesses alike. Like everyone seems to be loving it so far. So that's going to be a big play for me this year.
Awesome. Well, Justin, where can people go if they want to work with you or learn more about you so I know what links to attach in description?
Yeah, I mean, obviously paidadvertising.com, the name and the domain is the same. So definitely that's an easy one. But in terms of content, highly recommend people that want to learn more about what I do and just ads in general, check out my YouTube channel. Search my name, just Justin Lalonde. You should find me, and it's an advantage of having an SEO friendly name. Um, there's a lot of videos on there. I think I'm at like 600 long form videos, so you should have plenty to go through.
Well, Justin, thanks so much for your time today. This has been really valuable. And I will leave those links in the description for anybody who wants to work with you. Also, I'll leave your program information down below too. And
I
Justin, thanks
appreciate
for
it.
coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.